Welcome to part 2 of my Fall Guys tutorial in UEFN. I'll just be going over a few things I missed first time around, mostly how to get even more kinds of obstacles working. I'm going to presume you've seen the first part. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it before this. Anyways, let's get right to it. Okay, now following the same kind of theme that we had last video, making some different kinds of obstacles, we're going to do some more obstacles. So here's our wrecking ball. Now, the thing is that when we get this swinging, the issue is that when you run past it, you might have run into this yourself, but you don't get knocked back by it because you need to add the knocking back to it. Now to actually do that, you need to go into content drawer, go into Fortnite, search up pinball, and you need this, the pinball bumper. Now this pinball bumper is very useful as basically will add knockback to the ball. So how do we add knockback? So in the settings, usually I'm gonna leave this at 800. I'm just gonna leave most of these settings the same. Now the way we want to do this is you want to put the bumper right onto the wrecking ball like this, and we can size it up by pressing R and then putting it roughly where it should be. Now the thing is that if I were to rotate this, it doesn't follow it. So instead of going to the sequence and keying both of them roughly at the same place, the easier way to do it is if you select a pinball, right click, go down to attach to, click this little dropper, and then click the wrecking ball, and now we have attached it to the pendulum. So now when I move this, you're going to notice, oh wow, look at that, follows it. Now you can make this bigger if you want. If you don't like the size of it, you can be like this, and then now it's bigger. But anyways, if we go into our content drawer and then go into our content, we're going to make a sequence like last video. To add this wrecking ball to the sequence, we'll just add, you know the drill, if you've seen the last video, then add a transform track, and then you want to first put in this position, key it, put it there in the last spot and key it, and then at 250, which is halfway, put it at the other end, key it, and now would you look at that, we now have a pendulum. Wow. Now if you want to move it faster, you can always just move this back and make it half. Oh my god, it's faster! No way! And then finally you want a Cinemax sequence device like last video. Go to these details, add it to it. It's called stuff. We want it to loop, we want it to autoplay, and we want it to restore state. Oh yeah, and just before we go into the session, a quick little tip is that if you select both and then copy, you're going to make another parent to the object. So as you can see, we made two now. So the pinball is already attached to the thing. But if you only select the pendulum, you'll only get the pendulum, you won't get the thing. So now if I play the game, you're going to notice it now swings, and if I run into it, oh wow, look at that. Our next obstacle we're going to make is like a bouncy thing. So there's this prop and also this little like bouncy rectangle thing. Now neither of these do anything like usual. If we search up bouncer gallery, these will have all the devices we'll need. Drag this out. Some of the best ones to use for this would be this bouncer obviously, or maybe the flat tiles, and then this thing right here called a hop flower for the red drums thing. If you see this box, that's a hitbox for the, like, you know, if the player bounces, so if they enter that, they'll bounce. So just keep that in mind. Put this right here, and then maybe like if you shrink it down, it makes this hitbox smaller, so it only kind of works if you're really close to it. Same thing with this. If you make it like, you know, bigger, kind of more inside of it, you'll be able to bounce a bit more accurately. Now here's something really important to note, okay? In this bouncer, there is 27 bounce velocity, and in this one, there is 28. Now you're probably wondering, what's the difference? There's only one, right? Well, in-game, if I jump on the 27 one, you're gonna notice that, you know, I'm bouncing. I did this waving arm animation, and I can control myself, and I land normally. But with 28, when I jump onto it, you're gonna notice now I'm in ragdoll mode. So if you're not picking up what I'm putting down, basically 28 is like this threshold for bounce velocity to go from being in control to ragdoll mode. Anything at 28 or higher than 28 will cause you to go crazy. Oh yeah, and I forgot, here's who we are in game, and the bouncers are invisible, but we can still, you know, bounce on them. Okay, now last video you may have noticed for the spinning thing I used where's the sequence? I need to find this. So here's our propeller. If you remember, I made it so spin a certain amount and then it will just reset back to where it needs to be, but I found out a way more reliable way that doesn't involve any verse. Okay, I'm just gonna quickly make a new sequence. Okay, and here's our propeller. If we add, you know how it goes, and if you want to add a transform track, but this is where it changes, okay? You want to press this little plus sign and you want to add relative. This is going to add a relative track. I have a full video on relative transformations if you want to watch it, but basically just do this, okay? You want to click on the second transform and go down to delete. So now the transform is only relative, as you can see with this, the like, you know, word. What we need to make sure of is that all of these are 0, okay? Because it goes relative to where it is currently. So if I add a location to it, you're going to notice that it goes from where it is currently instead of like where it is in the world. But what we want to do is we want to delete location and scale. And now what we want to do is figure out which axis is this, which is the last one. So we'll just delete both of these and we'll only keep yaw. Then what you want to do is key it, and then on this key you want to click it and then reset it back to 0. And then you want to go to the very end, and then this is the degrees of how much it'll turn, okay? So if I press the plus sign again, add a new key, it's going to do this. But if I click on this key and then I go here, I add in 360 because it's, you know, full rotation. It's gonna now rotate 360 degrees. And again, like last time, you want to select both and make them linear. Now it's a perfect rotation. And this should be extremely more reliable than the other one because it doesn't jerk around. It's perfect. And also, if you go back into the last key and then you make it, instead of 360, you add a little minus, and now it's minus 360. It's gonna rotate the opposite direction in counterclockwise. And also, just another quick tip, if you want these arrows on these or the spinning plate here to face the right direction, what you can do is you can go into details, turn on mirrored. And when you look at that, it's now facing the correct direction. Wow. Another thing is in content browser, there's actually new music you can use for Fall Guys Island. If you go into Fortnite and switch up FG audio, you can now see there's 2 little things right here. So you've added that's helpful to know. Presuming you're able to, okay, you can probably import main music from Fall Guys itself by going into like a website or something. Now, another cool thing you can do is, let's say if you didn't like the camera, if you think this camera is like too close up, and like, you know, it's bad, what you can do is you can add an orbit camera to your map. So if I were to go into controller, search up orbit camera, or camera orbit, I guess. Now this will be on our map. Now this is the little preview. What you want to do is you want to make it so the distance is about 500, maybe even further enough, 1000, maybe even further, 2000. And now we have this. The good thing about this is that your camera in this mode, one of the annoying things about this camera is that if you look up, it's blocked. So it's like you can't go any higher than this. So if you add an orbit camera to your map, you can make it so it works. So if I start the game, oh wow, would you look at that? We now have an orbit camera. So it's kind of like the actual Fall Guys game where the camera is more zoomed out than it is here. And also, just like the orbit camera, you can use other cameras too, like the fixed angle camera, which is for if you want like a side scroller or a top down Fall Guys mode, you can do that as well. If you do angle pitch 0 and then make angle yaw about 90 or 180, you can make a side scroller. Again, you can fiddle with all of this if you want, but this is just simple. And when you look at this, we now have side scroller Fall Guys. Now, one problem with this is that you don't actually have the side scroller controls device, so kind of annoying. But same thing with the third person's controls device, but I'm pretty sure that's already kind of enabled in the controls of the Fall Guy. That's just helpful to know. Okay, now enough with that. Well, let's continue with more obstacles. So we're gonna make one of these guys. So with this guy, to make it spin, obviously we'd want a pinball again, but this time we will probably want the long one like this. We'll grab the long pinball. And then we'll do this. I'm gonna put this back up to about where it was last time, which is about 15,000. Then you want to put it onto it like this, make it real big. And then you want to put one there, and you want to put another one on the other side. Click both of these, right click as you know, go down to attach, and then attach it to the spinning bar. And now, what do you look at that? We now have spinning bars and knockback. Now, another thing that I forgot about with the wreck ball, you can actually hide pinballs if you don't want pinballs to be on your thing. So if I go in here, I've add this to here, but then I want to click my pinballs too. Make sure there isn't any transform track on these, only visibility, okay, which is down here. Actor hidden game, you want that, and then you just want to turn it off. So just turn these off. Now they're hidden in game, but they're still there, and their hitboxes will still work, kind of like the platform in the first video. That even though it's not visible, its hitbox is still there. And if you go in here, and then you want to, you know, fix the keys. So we want that to be 0, and then we want the end one to be, this to be 360. So as you can see, we now have it rotating. Wow. And then if you push our changes, it should hopefully work. And now in game, if you look at it, oh wow, it's working. So we're walking through it. Get bounced around. Try to jump over it. Oh. So yeah, that's working. Okay, now next we're gonna make a giant log. So here's a giant log. We want this log piece, and then we want this thing as well, because this is the thing that will swing the log. Add it to the edge. Let me add another one. Spin this one around so it's correct. Yeah, here we go. Now you probably can tell what I'm gonna do. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to select the log, and you want to attach to the swinging log stick C2. Then you want to get one of the logs, the other things, and you want to attach that to the log. If you look in the outliner, it's kind of like a hierarchy. So you want the highest one, which is this. So now this will swing it. Now it's a bit if you look at this, it's kind of like not straight, but that's because I didn't really go that well. If you make it straight, it'll actually look right. You can probably tell what I'm going to do with this. You go into sequencer. You add only this pole to it. You add your transform. And then we want to do, it's a pendulum, so we want to just make a pendulum. We're going to move it back like this. Then we're going to key it. We're going to do the exact same key at the very end. Then at the very middle, we're going to add the other side like this. So now we have a swinging log. Oh, wow. Would you look at that? Okay, and now another thing we can do is go here. We do damage, and we're going to grab a damage volume like this right here. All we can do is we'll turn this on its side like this. And this is to, like, if the player gets hit by the pendulum, they'll die. Because, it's the giant log that kills you. So if we scroll down in here, we can do zone shape, and we can make it a cylinder. And this will make it so, it's more log shaped. Now we'll put right onto it, maybe like at the very end, around here. And we'll shrink it down to about half its size. Zone height is the length, technically. So just wanted to make it so it's... And then we'll make it straighter. And then we'll use R to, like, resize it then. So we can make it so it's just like slightly outside the bounds, so the player can still hit it. And now, like everything else, we want to right click attach to, and then we want to select the swing log base. So if you try to do this, you can't because it's the volume, so just click one of these little spikes. Usually that works. So now alongside swinging, and it also now does damage, so that also works. Oh wow, look at that. Now another thing we're gonna make is, I think if I recall my Fall Guys memory, I think it's called a Yeetus. At the big Yeetus. We're gonna make a big Yeetus. So you want to get one of these flowers you used earlier, and you want to put it right on the face of it, like this, because it's gonna yeet the player when they get hit by it. I'm gonna shrink it down where it should be, about here. This will be hidden in game if it, so it's not gonna actually have this flower on it. Then what we can do is we'll attach the flower like usual to attach it to the Yeetus, and then what we want to do is we want to add the hammer to the sequence. Then we want to add transform. With this hammer, we want to click relative. We're gonna make a fresh one for this because there's different, there's a different rotation. It's not the yaw this time. So what we want to do is we want to delete these two. For the rotation, let's just do this. Okay, it's the first one. It's a roll this time. So okay, want to delete these two so we don't only have roll. Then add a key, and then at the very end add another key. And now this will add 360. Now make these keys linear, and now we have a Yeetus that yeets the player. It's kind of slow, but the Yeetus is pretty fast in the main game. So what we can do is we'll add more keys to it so it spins multiple times in this 5 seconds. No, I'm gonna make it do a full rotation every second. Go. That's where we're at. So that's what I want every second to happen. The issue is that this is in degrees. Okay, so how am I supposed to make it roll more times? It's pretty simple. All we need to do is just go into here, do this, then we'll add 360 to 360, which is 720. Now this is 720. Now it's gonna roll twice. We can add a bit more. So then we want to add 360 to this, which is 180. Then we'll add another one, which is about upon the 4 seconds. Then we'll add 360 to 180, which is 440. And then we'll add last little key, which is going to be 800. So now it's going to rotate fully. It's going to rotate 5 times in 5 seconds. So it's very nice. Would you look at that? If you want to make like a flipper, if you know what a flipper is, if you ever play Fall Guys, you need this one, you need this one too at the top, which is this guy right here. So what I want to do is put this here, put this down like this, like that, like this. I want to make a new sequence. This will be our flipper sequence. We then want to add the lid to the top of this, which is the lid of the flipper. I'm gonna go right here. It's kind of not right. I'm not trying to be perfect with this. Then, as usual, we want to attach attach to the lid. Now we want to grab the lid in the sequencer. We want to transform it. So we want it to flip really fast. So we're going to put it about, I don't know, maybe the 0.3. And then we're going to move this up. We're going to rotate it so we kind of get it kind of correct where it's still in it, but like, you know, it's there. Yeah, it's not perfect, all right? I know it's not straight, and there's a few things like here, but yeah, it worked. So here's our little flipper. We're gonna do this, and then we're gonna have a reset timer. So it's gonna, after 4 seconds, it's gonna reset back to its original state. So we're gonna have it's gonna go flip, and it's gonna reset back down to where it should be. And it's gonna reset. Now what we can also do is we'll add a trigger, you know, because kind of want to trigger, so it triggers when you walk over it. Let's make it a bit bigger, like so. So when a player walks onto this, they're gonna get flipped. And we're gonna have a reset delay on this trigger for 4 seconds, and it's not gonna be a visible game, or it's not gonna have any sounds either. Bear with me. We're gonna get another cinematic sequencer. We're going to go into here. We're gonna play function when the trigger gets, you know, untriggered. We're gonna get the flipper. We're gonna do playback to be off. I think we want completion state override to be on restore state, and that's it. And when I step on this flipper, we're gonna see it moves me, but nothing really happened. I can re-trigger it. While I'm on it, it doesn't trigger because it has the 4-second delay. So you're probably wondering, how am I supposed to make this knock my player back? Okay, now what we wanted to use is this bouncer here. But the issue is, this bouncer is always on. And you don't really want that, because when the player walks on, they'll bounce again, if that makes sense. So we shrink this down to where it wants. I might just move this trigger for a second. We're gonna put the bouncer right on top like this. And then what we're gonna do is we're going to do attach. And if we can, you can find the lid somewhere in here. Oh, sorry, I need to get out of the sequence. There it is. So now this bouncer is on the lid of the thing. Go out here, go back into flipper. You're gonna notice that when I do the sequence, the thing's kind of following it now. Now, with this bouncer, what we can do is we'll make it, it's not visible during game. And what we can also do is there's 2 little options in here called enable and disabled. Now, the way this will work is we're going to add our bouncer to the sequence. And the thing is, to get the perfect timing for the enable and disabling, we only want the bouncer to be enabled on these 2 frames right here. Anything else, we don't want it enabled on. And you're probably like, oh, how the hell are we going to do that? So what we can do is we can right click here, go into gameplay events, and we're going to add a key here, and we're going to add a key here. And basically this, if you right click on the properties, we can make it so it enables here. And then on this key, we're going to make it so it disables. Now it's kind of annoying because in the bouncer, there isn't an option to disable it on game starts. So we're going to need to add a trigger right here, and this will just disable everything. So we want to activate this trigger on game start to make sure there's no delay. And then in the bouncer, we're going to disable it on this trigger getting triggered, which will get triggered on the game starts. So you'll automatically disable it. And also we're going to just turn off enabled by player in all of these too, so it doesn't get, the player can't step on it. So now if you're following, okay, before the sequence starts, the bouncer is going to be disabled. Then in the sequencer, it's going to get enabled and then immediately disabled. But in that little period right there with enabled, the player will be on it and then it'll get launched. The night before, we want the bounce velocity of this bouncer to be 28, so we get the ragdoll. Oh yeah, and don't forget the move back trigger. So now if we jump on the thing, oh wow, look at that. We have been flipped. So yeah, that's how you make a flipper. And I'd say this probably concludes part 2, alright? All this video was a part 2 to the first video, as I kind of missed a few things and stuff like that, so hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Remember to like, subscribe, and use my code in the Fortnite item shop. And watch all of these videos for more of my tutorials. That's about it. I'll see you all next time.